The warehouse bought its control system at an ordinary price. At renewal, the only qualified servicer can charge more because switching would stop refrigeration. The price changed after the building, sensors, and staff became tied to one system. The first answer, bargaining power, moved when the warehouse's own investment stopped being reusable elsewhere, not when it bought the equipment. A scarce supplier is only part of the story. The decisive constraint is the buyer's lost ability to switch. Once exit requires abandoning fitted assets, continuation terms are negotiated from a different position. Consider a bounded cold storage warehouse rebuilt around one integrated refrigeration control system, with one original installer able to recommission it after faults. The building layout, sensor placement, and staff training all fit that system. Each adaptation improves daily operation while making alternatives harder to adopt. At renewal, the servicing rate rises. A full changeover would idle cold rooms for weeks and leave fitted sensors unusable elsewhere. The manager accepts the higher rate. The leverage came from the warehouse's stranded investment, which made continued service cheaper than switching. This differs from ordinary monopoly power under ordinary conditions. A seller can face strong competition at purchase, yet gain bargaining strength only after the buyer commits. Before commitment, the warehouse can compare complete systems and walk away on credible terms. The suppliers must compete against the buyer's usable alternatives during that stage. After commitment, those alternatives require undoing the warehouse's own adaptations. Competition among systems remains for this buyer, but reaching it has become expensive and disruptive. The loss of redeployability happens layer by layer during continued operation. Equipment is installed, rooms are rearranged, workers learn routines, and connected processes adapt around them. The lock-in point arrives when abandoning those layers costs more than the benefit of switching for this warehouse. That threshold, rather than purchase, changes the bargaining position. Economists call an investment relationship specific when its value depends heavily on one continuing relationship. In economic terms, its next best use is materially less valuable. Here, the specific investments within this facility include fitted sensors, custom configuration, room layout, worker training, and the interruption risk created by changing them together. A portable tool keeps value across many relationships. A fitted control module may deliver high value here, and little value anywhere else after forced removal. Specificity is useful before it becomes leverage. Custom integration can improve flow, reduce coordination, and make the warehouse more productive inside the relationship over routine alternatives. The value above the warehouse's next best alternative is a quasi-rent. Once created, that surplus becomes part of the later bargaining over continuation at renewal time. The buyer's own investment expands the joint surplus after installation finishes. Better integration makes the relationship more valuable, while simultaneously making exit more costly for the buyer. A complete contract with perfect foresight could settle every future service term in advance. In practice within this scenario, faults and changing needs leave some terms open. Renewal, faults, upgrades, and recommissioning bring those open terms back into negotiation under operational pressure, after the warehouse has already made its specific investments. Whoever controls recommissioning during a breakdown now controls the scarce route back to normal operation. That control improves its bargaining position relative to the warehouse. The surprising result from this mechanism is that the servicer can capture part of a surplus created by the buyer's integration, even absent any claim about intent. Bargaining depends on alternatives at renewal time. The warehouse chooses between accepting service terms and paying for changeover, downtime, retraining, and stranded fitted assets. The servicer chooses during renewal talks between supporting this warehouse and deploying its crew elsewhere. Its alternative may sacrifice less value than the warehouse's alternative. That asymmetry creates a bargaining range during continued negotiation. Continuation can become more expensive while remaining cheaper for the warehouse than exercising its switching option. If servicing rises beyond that range under current conditions, switching becomes worthwhile, despite disruption. The buyer's outside option, therefore, still limits the possible terms. So the decisive event for this relationship is the loss of a practical switch, not supplier concentration at sale. Post-commitment position determines the leverage. The distributional question during later negotiation is how the quasi-rent gets divided. The warehouse created much of it, but dependency affects the later split. A servicing increase during a fault that remains below switching cost may be accepted. The buyer preserves operations while surrendering part of the relationship's additional value. A larger increase can destroy the agreement by making changeover preferable for either party. Bargaining power changes the split, but it does not remove every boundary. Accepting one renewal can deepen specificity if more workflows adapt afterward inside the warehouse. The new baseline may make the next renewal harder to resist. Dependency can therefore compound through successful use over repeated renewals. The more value integration creates, the more expensive preserving a genuine exit option may become. Retaining a second qualified servicer changes the result during urgent faults. The warehouse can redirect recommissioning work while keeping its fitted assets in place. Standardized connectors and modular components can preserve redeployability through a changeover. A replacement unit can enter while existing sensors, pipes, and training remain useful. Portable training and configuration methods also help through later changeovers. Knowledge that transfers across systems keeps more of the buyer's investment valuable after exit. A contract can price routine continuation before commitment with clearer limits. Predetermined service access reduces the range left for bargaining after specific investments are sunk. Those protections consume resources in normal operations. Duplicate expertise, modularity, reserved access, and advanced commitments can reduce efficiency or flexibility before any dispute appears. Repeat dealing across multiple contracts can restrain holdup even after investment becomes specific. A servicer expecting future projects may protect the broader relationship instead. The restraint is conditional under credible expectations. Future work matters only when its expected value to the servicing party competes with the gain available from current leverage. A compatible alternative during a fault can remove the bargaining shift directly. If another party can recommission the fitted system, the warehouse retains a practical outside option. Test the boundary from the outset with a warehouse that retained modular connections, a manual cooling fallback, and a second crew trained before installation. When the original service terms rise during the fault, the manager declines. The second crew restores operation, while most fitted assets remain productive. Standardization can carry a trade-off during steady operation. A deeply optimized custom system may outperform a modular one while creating greater dependence on its specialist relationship. Advanced contracts also remain incomplete during future failures. Novel faults, changed requirements, and unforeseen adaptations can reopen bargaining outside the prepared service terms. Holdup is therefore conditional at renewal time on specific investment, thin alternatives, and open future terms. Remove any one strongly enough, and the leverage weakens. We can now resolve the puzzle under competitive conditions. The purchase price described competition before commitment. The renewal terms reflect bargaining after the investment became specific. The buyer's fitted assets reduce the value of switching during renewal talks. That altered outside option moves bargaining power toward whoever controls the route to continuation. The possible servicing terms remain bounded for both parties by the value of continued operation and the full cost of switching. Bargaining happens inside that range. Bad faith is unnecessary to the mechanism during any renewal. Different outside options alone can change the division of value once future terms require agreement. The strongest protections are chosen through deliberate design before specificity deepens, compatible components, second source service, retained fallback capacity, and continuation terms arranged in advance. After commitment, the warehouse can still accept, renegotiate, build alternatives, or switch under operational pressure. Each response now carries costs created by prior adaptation. Every protection reallocates resources before problems appear. More switchability can mean duplicate capability, lower optimization, extra training, or a higher initial commitment cost. Maximum flexibility is not automatically efficient in expected value. The relevant question is whether the insurance value of exit exceeds what customization would otherwise add. The full answer in practical terms is that continuation gets priced after commitment whenever specific investment weakens exit. Effective limits must preserve leverage before that moment. To test any servicing relationship, ask which investments lose value after exit, who controls continuation, and what practical alternative each party retains. Locate the last moment when switching remains affordable. That is where standards, second sources, fallback capacity, or advanced terms can still change bargaining power. Holdup explains the price of continuing. It leaves another question. Would building a longer-lasting system prevent dependence, or deepen the investment tied to it? The critical price is set after the exit closes, so preserve the exit before committing. The future is just incentives at scale. See you tomorrow.